This is our DPT level 1 low back core activation flow. Nice thing about this is you don't need a whole lot of equipment, just somewhere on the ground that you can lie. If you need something to kneel on, because there will be a kneeling exercise, go ahead and get a pad, pillow, a towel, something like that is totally fine, yoga mat. And then the other thing you'll need is like a PVC pipe or a dowel. So even like a broomstick, Swiffer, something like that. And I'll show you what you're gonna use that for in a little bit. This is intended to be an intro exercise for building patterns, but also encouraging activation and endurance in your core musculature. This is also intended to be done in real time. So we're filming this in real time with me going through the reps and sets for one cycle, and I typically will have everybody do this 2 to 3 times. But I'm gonna film it so you can follow along for that first round and see how that goes. Sound good? So here we go, we're gonna get started. The very first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna get down on the ground, and we're gonna start off with our dead bug exercise. So we might be familiar with the dead bug, or we might not be, but let me show you our version of it. First thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get you to bring both feet up like this. That low back, it can either be pressed into the ground or slight little neutral to it. We're gonna do this with what we call pattern assist. So I'm gonna take my left hand and put it into my right knee. And if I just push like I'm trying to push that knee away from me, it turns my core on. The other thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna tuck my chin, lift my head. That's also gonna turn my core on. So from here, this is my starting position. I'm going to let my arm and my leg go out. I'm going to pause here for 1 breath into my belly and bring it back in. And we're going to do 10 of these. 2. 3. Paying special attention to keeping that chin tucked, keep making sure that back isn't moving. 4. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. At that point, you can just take a rest for a second because chances are your neck will be a little bit tired. If your neck or your core is a limiting factor, you can only get through 3 to 5 reps. That's totally fine. Just go ahead and take a rest. Just pick up where you left off. Try to complete 10 repetitions each time you do this. Okay, we'll go to that next side. So I'll tuck my chin, lift my head. This time I'm gonna take my right hand, push it against my left knee. Start here, cycle it out. 1 breath. 1. 2. 3. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. You should feel that in that anterior core. Shouldn't be any pain with this or with any of the other exercises either. Okay, so that was for the front. We're now going to flip over onto our side. We're going to do a side plank clamshell. A couple things here. One, we want to work these muscles and we want to work them in an endurance fashion. But I'm also going to try to give you something to do to keep you busy so they're not so boring, and that way we can encourage you to do something else at the same time. So for that side plank, we're going to get our knees bent, heels towards your butt. This arm just down on the ground right underneath you. I'm gonna press down on the ground, squeeze my butt and pop up into this nice, perfect side plank. Knees, hips, shoulders all in a straight line, not back here. And then we're gonna do a clamshell. So that's nice and easy. Keeping my feet together, pulling my knees apart. We're gonna do 10. So this does a couple things. 1, it works that hip a little bit. But number 2, it keeps me in the side plank longer. So if I can be here for all 10 repetitions, great. Same thing, if I need to stop and take a rest after 4 or 5, I can do that too. Try to complete 10 repetitions. It's 5. Here's number 6. During this exercise before you move on to the next one. 8, 9, and 10. Great. Okay, same thing on the other side. Here, press down, squeeze your butt, pop up, nice straight line. We'll go 10, nice slow repetitions here. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Great. Okay, so that was the front and the sides. Now we're going to go for that low back in a couple different ways. First one's going to be that bird dog. So that bird dog exercise, we're going to be on our hands and knees, wrists underneath our shoulders, knees underneath our hips. And the bird dog, we're going to think about reaching one arm out like I'm trying to poke my fingers through the wall ahead of me with my thumb turned up. I'm going to take my opposite leg and try to put my heel through the wall behind me. And in this position, I'm going to press away from the ground, and I'm just going to try not to fall over. I'm going to hold this for 1 to 2 breaths in and out of my belly. 1 breath, 2 breath. And I'll switch sides. 1 breath, 2 breath. We're going to do 5 of these on each side. 1 breath, 2 breath. 1 breath, 2 breath. And as I'm reaching and trying to get long, I should feel my glute turn on. And as I reach and turn my thumb up, I should feel my shoulder blade turn on as well. 1, 2 breath. 1 breath, 2 breath. That's 3 reps total on each side. 1 breath, 2 breath. 1, 2 breath. That's 4. 1 more each side. 1, 2. 1, 2. All right, that was 5 per side, 2 breaths each. It could be 1 breath each, doesn't really matter. But again, try to get really long from the tip of your fingers through the heel, and you'll feel some tension across your spine. Again, the whole goal there is not to fall over and just be really, really stable. Okay, so that was front, side, and then low back. Now we're going to really try to get those glutes on. So we're going to do what we call a leg lock bridge. So you're going to lie down on your back. I'm going to use this leg to do the work. So that means I'm going to pull this leg up towards my chest with my opposite arm. That opposite hand, or opposite hand from the leg that's doing the work, is going to be on the ground. I'm going to pull my toes up, drive my heel into the ground, and try to get my knee, hip, and shoulder in a relatively straight line. And I'm going to do 10 reps here. Called a leg lock bridge because that knee up towards my chest is keeping my low back from doing the work. My hip has to do the work. And so it's making my glute really do that work as opposed to letting my hamstrings or my low back take over. 8, 9, and just pause for a second at the top. 10, great. Next I'm going to come here, same thing, pull that toe up. 1, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Okay, great. So now, worked my anterior core, lateral core, posterior core, glutes. Now, everyone always talks about hip flexors being super tight, so we're going to try to activate our glutes, help turn off those hip flexors with this easy hip flexor stretch. It's a little bit different than most people have done it before. So what that's going to look like, I'm going to turn kind of 45 degrees here, so hopefully you can see both angles. But what I want is I want that knee kind of down below my hip. I'm going to stay up nice and tall. rather than just lean into this hip flexor stretch, I want you to stay nice and tall and just squeeze your butt. And as soon as I do that, I already feel like a stretch in my hip. That's exactly what we want. If you need a little bit more, push that knee forward, keeping that glute tight. And you should feel like your spine isn't doing the work, but it's actually coming from your hip, which is what we want. So once I'm here, this is great. I can just pause and take a couple breaths in my belly. I'm gonna do 5 breaths. Three, 4, 5. And that whole time I'm squeezing that glute. Now stay here, raise that same side arm as the leg is down, and you're gonna side bend away. So what that's doing is we've anchored that hip flexor, now we're stretching it where it attaches to your spine. And then same thing, can you stay here? Keep that glute squeezed, 5 breaths. That's 5. Great. Do the same thing on the other side. Get knee out in front, knee that's down, nice tall through the torso. Squeeze that glute, drive that knee forward, get a good little stretch in the front side of that hip. 5 breaths into your belly. Okay, that glute was on the whole time. Now take that right arm, reach up, lean to the left, get a big stretch along this whole right side. Keep that glute on. 5 more breaths into your belly. Good, and come on out of that. See how that feels. If that side bend just feels a little funny or you don't feel balanced, just stay up nice and tall, squeeze that glute, give me 10 full breaths in and out of your belly in that upright position. You can add that little side bend once you feel comfortable. Last one is what we call our hip hinge. So this is where you're gonna need that PVC pipe or that broomstick or the Swiffer or whatever it is. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna use this to represent our kind of neutral spine position. So you're gonna take this stick, you're gonna hold it behind your back, just like this. Palm is out, so the back of my hand is against my low back. My feet are about hip width apart. I'm gonna go ahead and reach behind my head, and where my neck is, there's a little window. I'm gonna hold on to that, and the stick is gonna touch my butt, the back of my shoulders, and the back of my head. And what I wanna do is I'm gonna softly bend my knees. I'm gonna hinge forward as far as I can go without that stick coming off my back. So if I hinge forward, boom, I get a nice big stretch here. My core is not moving at all because I'm not rounding and that stick's not lifting. I'm just gonna squeeze my butt and stand up. So I'm gonna do 10 of these. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Wonderful. Okay, that was one cycle through. I typically recommend doing 2 to 3 rounds of those exercises, so you can just go back and play that video again until you get used to these movements. Give these a try. It's all about endurance. If you can show us that you have really good endurance and no pain with any of these exercises, it's gonna be really easy to go to phase 2, which we're gonna take this same concept, we're gonna make it a little bit harder and more progressive and start building it into real life patterns. Give it a try.